What could a YouTube channel and a nonprofit organization have in common? Well, quite a bit. Welcome, everyone. A while ago, Liz and I from the Crap channel attended an expo for seniors here in southern Arizona. We met a woman who was at a booth for this organization called R.O.S.E. I knew immediately that Crap needed to make a connection with such a wonderful organization. We exchanged cards, and Joyce put me in contact with Brian Watson, who is their community outreach specialist. Brian and I talked on the phone, and that led to this interview. So, Brian, welcome. It's very nice having you here.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Alisha. This is great. I've learned in my short time in the nonprofit world that collaboration and networking are everything. Different groups can get together, law enforcement, nonprofits, businesses, and we can all work together to battle the scammers that are out there.
Even from talking to you before this, I know that you have a very interesting background coming from law enforcement. Can you tell me more about that and how you ended up at R.O.S.E?
So I was a special agent with IRS criminal investigation. I did that for 28 years. When I was a special agent, we conducted criminal investigations involving things like tax evasion, filing false tax returns, but then we also investigated illegal activity involving money laundering. So it could be narcotics, Ponzi schemes, investment fraud, and things like that. And my last 18 years or so, I was a public information officer. So that meant I went out in the public, did TV, radio, print interviews to publicize our criminal cases, as well as warning the public about financial scams, tax scams, um, fake email scams, the phishing things that we're going to talk about. And I met Joyce kind of the same way you did, through a networking event or just getting out in the public. And I did a video interview with her for the R.O.S.E website. And we just started talking, and several months later, we talked about teaming up. So I decided to retire. I transitioned into the nonprofit world, and I'm basically doing a lot of the same things I did before when I worked for the IRS, interacting with the public, warning people about scams. So it's been a pretty smooth transition. I'm really enjoying it. So what caused you and Liz to start the YouTube channel? That's kind of a big deal.
It is, and it's a challenge starting a YouTube channel. Liz has been a good friend for many years. She and I worked at a university, probably in the mid 80s. So we interacted quite a bit and became friends. In 2015, I was working at MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I had a job I loved, but at that time I was diagnosed with a blood cancer. I didn't feel like I could continue in my job as it was at that time. I decided to take early retirement and always wanted to move back to the Southwest. More recently, Liz and I started thinking, because we have friends anywhere from the 60s to the 90s, and we hear about the scams. In fact, I had a close relative that picked up a phone and thought there was some problem. Amazon was calling with a questionable purchase, which then turned over to the Federal Trade Commission, saying that there was a money laundering scheme. Yet somehow they were caught up in it. His wife got suspicious of what was happening, and so she just started yelling, "Get off the phone! Get off the phone!" They didn't lose money, fortunately, but they were very close to losing it all. Another relative, a man in his 80s, was called thinking that it was his daughter calling that was in trouble, which we now know is called a grandparent scam. It had her voice on the phone, created with AI, saying that she needed money right away. And he sent out $7,000, just like any parent would do generally if they really thought their child was in trouble or their grandchild.
It's the natural reaction because they love their child or they love their grandchild, and you would do anything to protect them. And that's why that particular scam works so well.
Anyway, Liz and I decided at that time that we wanted to educate more people. So we created this channel, not only about scams, but part of being safe online is learning to use the technology safely.
Well, you're doing great work, and you're over 30 episodes at this point, right?
Yes, thank you. We've only started publishing videos about 3 months ago. Frankly, it's the hardest job I've ever worked at for no money.
You're saving the world, and we're trying to do the same thing at Rose.
So, Brian, what do you see as the most pervasive scams these days?
Well, I'll say the ones that are just most pervasive are the phishing emails. So phishing with a PH, it's fake emails. The reason why, because thousands, if not millions, are sent every single day. It doesn't take much effort from the scammer. They type up a fake email to pretend it looks like it's coming from your bank or from Amazon or PayPal or something like that. And they just send them out and they're just hoping someone bites. They cast a line and they just see if someone bites. And what they want you to do is to trick you into thinking your bank account has been suspended, or that your Medicare is being shut off, or someone ordered something using your credit card and they want you to react. And the key with the phishing emails is don't click on any links, because it'll take you to a really bad place. They're going to try to steal your personal information. And then the other key thing with phishing emails is don't ever look at them or try to open them up using your smartphone. That screen is far too small. If in doubt, do it at home on a big screen where you can see everything that's going on. You can hover your mouse, don't click, but hover your mouse over that hyperlink where they're trying to take you. You'll see where it's going, a bad place. And also hover the mouse or see who it's coming from. And you can also see on that big screen at home that it's coming not from Chase Bank or Bank of America or Amazon. But I'll say those are the most pervasive, just in sheer numbers. And then we also see the same thing with text messages. Those are called smishing messages because of the SMS, short message service, very similar to phishing. Don't click on them. That's what the scammers want you to do. And if you go to their website, some of the really sophisticated scammers can actually put the malware, the malicious software on your computer, or they can track your keystrokes. I mean, we don't want people clicking on anything. That's probably the best advice, is don't click on links.
You had mentioned to me earlier that you consider scam prevention to be more important than financial planning for seniors. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, and I actually wrote an article for the Green Valley News that talked about that. You know, a lot of people, as we get older, we set up an estate plan, a trust, a will. We have a succession plan for a family business. You know, we set money aside for grandchildren's education, and we spend all this money doing it. We hire attorneys and accountants, and the victims that I've met in my law enforcement career and my nonprofit career, a lot of them have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not everything. And if you don't have a scam prevention plan in place, you're sort of like just an ostrich putting your head in the ground and hoping nothing ever bad will happen to you. You have to have a plan where you educate yourself, your family members, and your friends so they don't get victimized, because that estate plan means nothing if you've lost all of your money. It can be all gone, and it's heartbreaking. You know, I've met people that have lost $200,000, $700,000, and I've read articles where people have lost in excess of $1 million. So you got to have a plan in place first to educate yourself and others. I think that is more important than the will and the trust and the estate plan.
We're severely unprepared for the task of educating all seniors. Organizations like yours are few and far between compared to all of those financial planners.
Right. Well, it's something people don't really want to talk about, and it's something people don't want to spend money on. You know, we have someone on our advisory committee who says it costs money to give away free information, and it's true. So even as a nonprofit, we run a very lean operation, but we do have expenses, and it's always a struggle to bring money in to fund what we do. Because what we do, the amount of money that you spend on yourself and others for fraud prevention comes back 20, 50, 100-fold, because you could spend a few $100s and we could save millions. That's our goal, is we just want to stop the fraudsters from, bilking people out of all this money.
Liz and I will try to help anyone we encounter, but you must deal with a lot more people in the public. Do you have any real life experiences you can
I
share?
do, and I've met victims over the years, both in my law enforcement career and my nonprofit career. I spoke to a lady over the phone from northern Arizona who lost $700,000 in the online romance scam where she was convinced to purchase cryptocurrency. The name that's used now for that type of scheme is called pig butchering. It's called pig butchering because it emanated out of China, the scheme, and it's a play on words where the scammers want to fatten up the victim, get them to invest all their money, and then they go in for the kill. Not a real kill, but a symbolic kill. They slaughter the pig. And this lady heard me on the radio, or her friend had heard me on the radio, and she contacted me. She met someone online. It could have been Facebook or Words with Friends or some other site. And before you know it, they were boyfriend, girlfriend. That's how they started considering each other after a period of time. And the boyfriend said, "You've heard of cryptocurrency, right? I'm really good at it. You want money for your grandkids, right? You can make so much money for them." And she tried a little bit of investing, and then she kept doing it more and more and more. Eventually, she was going down to a local store with a QR code, the quick response code, scanning it, and she was feeding bills, currency, cash into this Bitcoin ATM. She thought it was her money. She never had control over it. And when the scammer figured out that she had nothing left, she had sold her house to do this as well, which is really hard to believe. He just cut her off and she lost everything. And she said, "Brian, my deceased husband is rolling over in his grave right now. He'd be so upset with me." And she was embarrassed. But that's one of the biggest ones I've seen. But I meet people after doing presentations, people come up and share their stories. And it's heartbreaking, but it's also very motivating. It's motivating for me, for Joyce, for my coworker Melissa, for the people on our advisory committee and our board of directors. A lot of our board of directors have had a personal relationship. Someone that they love or care for has been defrauded. So it's very motivating for all of us.
Why is it so difficult in the case of a romance scam to extricate that person from the scam?
Well, so romance scams have been around for a while, and the key with romance scams is they have nothing to do with love. It's really about fooling someone, and it's about control. And what I've learned, a few things by actually talking to psychologists, people much smarter than me. I'm not an expert, but I know where to get good information. And I've learned that they start real simple online, where someone makes a comment about a Facebook post and then it goes back and forth. But what I've learned is romance scams or online relationships ramp up much faster than ordinary relationships. People tend to divulge more information because it's just going back and forth in direct messaging or text messaging, but they move really quick. People share intimate details of their life much quicker. So they move on like fast forward. And then it gets to the point where the scammers control their victims. They'll plant seeds in their head saying, your family doesn't want us to get together, or they're trying to control you, or they're not healthy for you. And they try to separate you from your family. And I met a psychologist recently and she told me online romance scams, they consider them a form of domestic violence just because of that controlling and domineering. Right. And they build this absolute trust. Joyce, our CEO, talks about this absolute trust that's built between the scammers and their victims. And that's why it's hard to break that absolute trust. They tell family members not to listen to you. It's a disgusting scam, because not only do they mess with them mentally and psychologically, they take their money, and then when it's all over, the victims are left in a very vulnerable position where they don't trust people anymore, and they don't want to get involved in any other relationships, whether it's romantic or just a friendship with just their the people that they know in their lives. And a lot of times they lose their will to live, their zest for life, and it causes depression, anxiety. And it's romance scams are particularly nasty for a variety of reasons.
And I know that being a victim of a scam can cause a lot of shame and embarrassment. From my personal experience with a close relative, the wife said, "Please don't tell anyone who it is." They didn't want to be thought of as frail or weak. So a lot of scams are never even
You know what
reported.
I've learned too is the older we get, the less likely we are to report being scammed. The number one reason, and every presentation I ask that question, why do people not report being scammed? Every single time people have said embarrassment. But there are other reasons, like you just mentioned. I don't even know I've been scammed. Some people don't know. The scammers have them fooled. They figure, what's the point? The money's gone. Who do I even report this to? And then the one that I've kind of come up with in the last 6 months working in the nonprofit world is as we get older, and if you're scammed, you don't want to tell your family you've been ripped off because they may take the checking account, the savings account, the credit card, which ultimately might lead to not being able to handle your own finances, driving your own car, living on your own. So a lot of fraud is unreported. It's only about, for people 80 plus, only about 17% of scams are reported, the fraud. And it goes down every single year. And then the tragic part is, even though the amount of reporting goes down every single decade, as you get older, the losses go up because a lot of older people actually have accumulated wealth over the years between saving money and pensions and inheritances and just doing the right thing and investing. Those are the people that lose the most money.
One problem, I'm sure, with all of this is that legally, when someone's scammed, they're giving their money away. They're taking money out of the bank and giving it to somebody. So, what resources do they have? What can they do if they've already been a victim of a scam?
So it depends on a lot of different things. The key is to report it quickly, report it to law enforcement, report it to multiple agencies if you have to. Sometimes it's good to be a squeaky wheel. Sometimes the money can be clawed back. With cryptocurrency, there is a blockchain, and if you find a law enforcement agency that has the time and the expertise, and you get someone involved, you could claw some of that money back. Sometimes banks are able to reverse things if the money's still in an account. We're talking like wire transfers or things like that. But it's tough. You know, if you wait, the scammers get the money and they'll move it as quick as they possibly can in order for it not to be tracked down. And there could be multiple layers of protection for them. Intermediaries, people we call money mules. It's tough, but the key is report it right away.
I think it's important, especially for seniors, to know, first of all, that there really aren't any good investments in cryptocurrency. Yes, there are people that have made money off it, but it's a very volatile market. It goes up and down constantly. Personally, I wouldn't recommend that they ever put their money in cryptocurrency. And if it's a company like Amazon or a bank asking you to do it, well, reputable businesses will never ask you to do that.
Right. That's always a red flag is when the criminals try to get to use a form of payment that you're not comfortable with or not used to. You know, most of us are used to cash or a check or a credit card, or maybe even now with the Zelle or the PayPal. But when they're telling you to use cryptocurrency or to drive down to the store and buy prepaid gift cards or going down and wire transferring money and you've never done that before, that's a huge red flag. I mean, the scammers literally will keep people on their cell phone while they drive down to the local store to buy the prepaid cards. That's a huge red flag. You should never be forced to spend money quickly and in a manner that you're not used to.
You mentioned that a lot of these romance scams often start with social media, like Facebook. That's an area I've been looking into recently. I created a video about Facebook friend scams, which obviously can lead to a romance scam or any number of possible scams. Because once a person gets to be your friend on Facebook, they have your whole life in front of them. They can see your relatives, they can see your close friends, they get an idea of your money and your social status. I recently came across a Facebook group for seniors that has 1.5 million followers. And then here and there, they try not to be too obvious, but you get these scammers trying to become friends or start a conversation with seniors. Often it's a scammer pretending to be a single widowed man to hit on older women, hoping to get someone who's lonely and wanting a connection. And they'll try every fifth or 10th person saying, I really admire you. I like what you're posting. I tried sending you a friend request. Could you please send me a friend request? Because I'd love to get to know you better.
Yeah, they're out there. These scammers are out there probing for victims. Just last week, I met someone at a presentation, and she said she was using the Words with Friends, which is basically an online thing where you can, do little word problems, and there's a chat feature, and these creepy scammers will go on there and just start making little contacts. And what they're doing is they're probing. They're trying to see if they can start an online relationship with someone and get a little back and forth. And it starts out very innocent, you think, but it's not. They are trying to probe you for information, try to get you dialoguing, and then maybe take you offline doing text message or phone calls and try to get you hooked. And that's how these romance scams start. And it's really scary. That's why it's a good idea too, if you're on Facebook, to have a private group. Like I spoke to someone recently in Tucson, and they have a group at his church that also has an exercise program, and there's about 200 people in it, but it's private.
Right.
And they keep it small for a reason, and they monitor, and they know who everybody is. Having a group with 1.5 million, that's just a recipe for disaster. A lot of times there's a lot of advertising and selling some shady products and things like that. So if you're on social media, take a look at your privacy settings. Maybe lock things down, only share stuff with really close friends, and also limit who you accept as a friend. Keep your friends to a smaller number. It's just safer.
I'm currently in the process of creating a video on how to tighten up your Facebook account.
A much needed video, an episode that would be very helpful for a lot of people, because a lot of people are on Facebook and their security is just wide open. Everyone sees everything, and that is just a bad situation.
How can the family, the sons and daughters of elderly parents, help protect them from scam?
I think the best thing is to have conversations, and just do it regularly, and that it's just normal. So I have parents that are both in their 80s. I have them subscribe to the newsletter that we put out once a month with R.O.S.E. And it's easy to sign up for. You just go to roseadvocacy.org, and right on our homepage, there's a blue box that says click here, sign up for the monthly email. And it's a very comprehensive email, covers a lot of different topics, and it's a great conversation starter. That way I can say, hey Dad, did you know about this new scam where it pretends to be messages via text from the post office? I go, that's not the post office. Oh yeah, I know that. I wouldn't fall for that. Or I tell my mom, there's a new variation of the grandparent scam where someone is doing this now. And then that way, it's not such a big deal. It's just a good conversation starter. But just having open dialogue. Some people do look at their parents' bank accounts. I'm on both my parents' bank accounts, but I don't actually check yet. Maybe in 5 years I might see where they're spending money. I've heard stories where people have lost their parents and they'll go back and look at their checking account and realize they've been writing checks to all kinds of organizations and things like that, or to people who've been asking for money, and they're like, wow, I didn't know they lost that much. But just being involved in their life and seeing what they're doing, it could save that. Spending a little time on the front end would save a lot of headaches on the back end.
Where can people who have been watching this interview get more information on R.O.S.E. or about scam prevention in general?
Well, I'm very impressed by our website. It was the thing that impressed me when I was working for the federal government. I learned about the whole pig butchering from the R.O.S.E. website. And I was like, wow, this is a good resource. And that's what we wanted at R.O.S.E. was a one-stop shop where you could get information on all these different types of scams. So please go to our website, roseadvocacy.org. roseadvocacy.org. We have all kinds of resources, how to report a crime. There's videos, there's articles, there's links to newspaper articles and TV stories. And then you can contact us if you want to get a hold of us. We do in-person presentations at retirement communities or civic organizations, Rotary clubs, churches. We just want to get out there and talk to as many people as possible and share this information. Get on our email mailing list, and we also will send a snail mail letter to your house. If you're someone who's not technically savvy and you don't want to use email, we'll actually send you our newsletter in the mail, the old-fashioned way with a stamp on it.
Do you have any final words?
I do, and thank you. I appreciate you having me here today. The one thing I learned that's really surprised me in 6 months with the nonprofit, I thought the people that I would meet who fell for these scams would have been losing it, having some cognitive decline, dementia, something like that. But that's not the case. Because when someone's in that situation, they've usually lost control of their finances. They can't handle it. The people I've met that have been scammed are smart, they're educated, they sometimes work still, they volunteer, they travel, they handle their own finances, but they made the mistake of getting in the ring with someone who's much better at being a scammer than they are at protecting themselves. These people get in over their heads, they answer the phone, they open up an email, and I've learned too, it could happen to any of us, at any age. But I do know that the scammers really do target older adults for a variety of reasons that we kind of covered here today. But it could happen to any of us. So don't think it couldn't happen to you or to someone you love.
Thank you, Brian. This has been a real pleasure. And to all of you watching this video, go to the R.O.S.E website, look at the resources, and sign up for their newsletter. It really is a fantastic resource. And I hope you'll also subscribe to this channel. Thanks.